Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Greg. Welcome to the channel. Today, I wanted to talk about a session with the Thunder Wizard that I had, and really how this path is really laid out for me from the universe. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Um, I want to talk about this encounter I had going out into nature, spending time out in nature. This certain spot that I found, certain power spot that I found, where I've had various encounters with different animals, different animal totems, but I wanted to talk about one specifically. I was having an encounter with a squirrel. This the first time I was just doing like a standing meditation. It's a qigong type of a meditation, but basically feeling the energy of the trees, the plants, everything around me. And all of a sudden, this squirrel came, and right in front of me there was a thin branch type of a tree. It had a long thin branch, and it was like already just going down. It was arched, and it was reaching the floor, pretty long, right in front of me. And I used to go under it too. I used to like give respect to the tree, or that's what I was thinking when I would go under it. But yeah, the squirrel went onto that arch, and it stopped in the middle of it. And it was like, it was a few feet away from me, and it stood on its two legs, and it just kind of looked at me like this, kind of opened its eyes real wide and tilted its head, and then it went off to my to the right side of me, went to the east. I kept on doing meditations. I don't remember what I had some kind of a revelation going on. I think it was when I tapped into a past life. Yeah, it's when I tapped into a past life about abusing the powers of nature. I had a flashback of me standing out there in nature and abusing those energies, gathering in that life force energy and using it on somebody. This was somebody that I encountered in this life too, at work, where this whole beef started rising up again. I mean, this other person wasn't aware of it on that level, but I was. And I remember when I had that revelation, I suddenly just turned to my right, the direction of the way that squirrel was, and maybe 40 or 50 feet away, he was on a tree, on one of the branches that was sticking out the most out of that tree, and he was just sitting there, standing there, kind of waiting for me to look at him, just standing there still. And once I looked at it, he kind of just nodded his head at me, really slow though. And squirrels are really erratic and they really move real fast, but this squirrel was like chilling there with me. It was a trip. And he kind of just slowly crawled away, and I went about my business. And there's another time, a few weeks later, I go out into nature, and I'm next to this one tree. Well, I'm next to all kinds of trees, but I started thinking, I feel like climbing on a tree, finding a tree to climb onto, so I could just sit up there and gather the energy of nature, feel it more deeply. And right after I had had that thought, a squirrel came around, and there was a tree to my left. I'm always thinking of the directions too. He was it was to my south, and this squirrel just boom went up that tree really fast, and I watched it, and it went up whatever 40, 50 feet high, and there was this broken branch maybe stuck out about that much, and he just perched himself on the top of that branch right there, and he was just chilling, super still. And I was looking at it, and I was like, man, I was just thinking about going sitting up on a tree, and the squirrel just kind of confirmed that, yeah, that's what you should do. Go find a tree to climb up on and chill up there. So I did. I went east, and I went a little bit north. I must have been another 40, 50 feet away from that tree. And I found a tree. I climbed up on that tree, and this tree's had the one root, and then it branched out into three different sections. So it's kind of like a Y or whatever. And I climbed onto there, and I was standing on the base of the root, and those three branches were going like that. There was only one branch that I could kind of hold on to, like the standing on there was a little bit unbalanced. So I decided to just sit in between those three forked branches, and I was just sitting there, soaking in that energy, feeling good. Just a few minutes later, all of a sudden I hear a rustling in some leaves coming from the west in the branches. And I know all the trees in this area, they're all connected in the branches. They're all like, all of them are just stuck together and everywhere in the sections. And I start hearing this rustling all over the place. And I look over to my west. I was facing the north. So I looked over to the west, and I noticed I was kind of looking backwards too. So kind of like that southwest. And I'm pretty sure it was that same squirrel. It started coming towards me. It was making its way through all those branches and coming quick. And yeah, he made his way all the way towards me, to my left. And he was coming through that one forked branch right there. And it was a trip because he got so close to me. He got within like a foot of me. And once he started getting within 4 or 5 feet and just really hopping over really fast, I feel that fearlessness from the squirrel. I was like, damn, is he going to jump on me? What's going on here? I kind of went like, whoa, what's going on here? I got to brace myself. I don't know what's going on. But then he stopped like a foot away from me. And, he's literally right there. And the same thing, he stood on his 2 feet and kind of opened his eyes real wide and tilted his head and looked at me. And like he was like trying to make his way around me. But he was looking at me, and then there was the other branch was over here, and he jumped over to this branch right here, and then he went on the other side of it, so I couldn't see him. Just that branch was in front of me. Then he started kind of poking around on both sides of it, looking at me, kind of like, I don't know, playing with me. It was a trip, and I was just kind of, hey, what's up, man? What are you doing? Kind of laughing. And he went up to that branch. He went up to the end of it. And there was no way, there was no more branches connected that way. So he came back down. Then he jumped back onto this branch over here. Then the other branch over here, he was looking towards that one, and he was like, I could tell he's bracing himself to jump. So he jumped from that branch behind me, landed onto this branch, and then he went through those branches and he connected to other trees and he took off. And I was like, damn, what a trippy experience. Another time, then a few weeks later, I'm walking in this same area where I stood on that tree, and for some reason I just looked to my left into some bushes, and I see a skull right there. I was like, oh, trip out on that. And I stopped and I was looking at it. That's a skull of a squirrel, So I went ahead and, I just like, I keep encountering squirrels, man. I'm having this connection going on. There's some kind of synchronicity. So I grabbed the squirrel skull. I didn't want to touch it at first. I grabbed it with a little small branch, grabbed it by one of the eye sockets, and I was checking it out, and I was like, I'm going to take it home with me. So I did. I ended up taking it home with me, and I washed it. I poured the alcohol on it. I cleaned it up, whatever, sterilized it, and I was using it to meditate, touching it, holding it, and just feeling the energy of that power spot when I would meditate, and it would work. I would really get visions of trees, visions that are hard to remember too. And at the same time I was talking about, I had this encounter with this person at work, a lot of beef going on, a lot of bad vibes going on. One day I came home from work and I was feeling stressed out, feeling really pissed off about those situations, because I was having feelings of, man, I feel like kicking this motherfucker's ass, having these badass thoughts, these pissed off thoughts, But then I'm trying to keep balance. As I get home, I'm going into meditation and trying to really calm myself down. I started cleaning my altar. Well, it wasn't on an altar yet, that skull, that squirrel skull wasn't on an altar, but I was cleaning the desktop that I had it on. And I was cleaning stuff and I was getting all agitated and shit, and I accidentally dropped the squirrel skull onto the desk, and a little bit of one of the teeth, just a little portion of the tooth broke off, and I was like, oh, fuck. That got me even more pissed off. But I grabbed that little piece of the tooth and I kept it. And eventually, as time went by, I started making an altar, because I had just started talking with the Thunder Wizard, and I had my altar where I would do my mantras and my chants, and I put the squirrel skull onto that altar, and I kept that little piece of the tooth as a reminder of when you get off balance, accidents could happen. You can fall, things could happen to you. So I still have that little piece of that tooth. And yeah, eventually I came to really control my emotions better at work with this person and other people too. I was encountering all kinds of static during this time. This was like a while back, last year, beginning of last year and summer of last year. I was like, fuck, I got to get out of this place. And I did eventually. But yeah, I told the Thunder Wizard about the experience that I had with the squirrel skull. And I did a YouTube search on squirrels, and I found in Native American animal totems. It's about gathering things. You know how squirrels gather things. But then I also noticed in Norse mythology too. I found a squirrel, and that squirrel's name is Ratatoskr. Ratatoskr, and yeah, I'm checking out what I found out, and his name means drill tooth. Well, first of all, I YouTubed the Ratatoskr, and any squirrels in Norse mythology, and he came up, and it just talked about this squirrel runs up and down the world tree of Yggdrasil, and he sends messages between an eagle that's perched on the top of the tree and a snake that's on the bottom of the tree. And it's kind of like a squirrel that gossips. He's a trickster. He tells the squirrel, hey, the snake down there is talking a bunch of shit about you. And he tells the snake, the eagle's talking a bunch of crap about you. And he's starting this beef with them. And eventually the eagle wants to get revenge on the snake, and he starts cutting branches off the tree of Yggdrasil and trying to drop them onto the snake. The snake's trying to bite its way through the tree of Yggdrasil and knock it down. And so that's the whole point of the squirrel is really trying to trick. He's a trickster god, and he's associated with Loki too. Loki is a trickster god too, and so eventually I think they stopped their little war. He doesn't eventually tear down the whole tree of Yggdrasil, but the squirrel really, he stirred it up, and the tree of Yggdrasil represents the whole spine, the Kundalini energy within the body, and he's running up and down from the crown chakra down to the root chakra, and this has to do with attaining balance in your life, and emotionally maturing is what this when your Kundalini starts really flowing through you is when you start achieving this emotional maturity. And that's exactly what I was going through at the time. I mean, heavily, intensely. I was dealing with a lot of negative emotions, positive emotions, mostly negative ones though, that are really stirring me up. And in my meditations I would have visions of different things, different monsters and scary looking things. When I had told the Thunder Wizard about that encounter, I was asking him if he knew about the Ratatoskr, the squirrel, and he goes, yeah. He goes, his name is Drill Tooth. It means drill tooth. At the time, I didn't know that. So once he told me that, I was like, oh, drill tooth. And, that reminds me of the experience I had with the squirrel skull. I had accidentally dropped it, and a piece of its tooth it broke off. So I was like, there's a connection right there. So all these different connections started really adding up. And it's just another sign for me that I was meant to be on this Thunder Wizard path, and really to learn about spiritual energy through this path, through this syncretic form of shamanism. And it's really helping me too. It's helping me to grow emotionally, big time. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. Once you start going on these paths, you start getting these synchronistic signs from the universe, and when you're on your right path, and that's the point, is to stay on it and to really trust in the universe, trust in that flow, and keep moving forward always. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And if anybody wants a Thunder astrology reading, leave the link on the bottom. Talk to you guys later. Peace.